Contains the opinions of the host, guests, and call-in participants. These do not necessarily represent the views of this show's distributors or sponsors. This program may contain obscene, profane, or otherwise objectionable language. Viewer discretion is advised. Howdy ho, everybody. Come to you cordless from glamorous Minneapolis. It's Thursday night, June 4th, 2026. I am Jim Peters, and welcome to another edition of Jim Peters at Night. This is episode number 356, if you're keeping score at home. Our guest later on tonight is Jonathan Lockwood, our old friend, military strategist, author, and former U.S. Army colonel. We're going to talk about the war in Iran and the war in Ukraine. The war in Iran especially, well, we've already taped the interview. You'll hear it. I won't even bother to comment on it at this point. We don't do Fridays here. On Monday, our guest is Richard Lyons. He's written a book called The DNA of Democracy. On Wednesday, we're having on Ralph, I hope I get his name right, Biscaglia, if I'm right. And I did not write the name of his firm down. I should have. He's the CEO of the major insurer for New York taxi cab drivers. Now you would think, well, why are you coming on this show? Because Mayor Mamdani in New York City is completely messing the place up, and believe it or not, his insurance has something to do with that. So I invited him on myself because I find this fascinating, and I hope you do too. I don't know if you're going to or not. I don't know. I mean, we talk about some fairly obscure stuff on this show, mostly because I got a sickness. Everything interests me, whatever. I don't know who our guest is going to be on Tuesday. We're taking next Thursday off completely. No Jimcast either. So, and that's where we're doing this now. I want to point this out. We got this figured out technically. It is working, and that is on YouTube. We're running this monologue and our guests separate. So you can watch either or both, your choice. On Rumble, they're running together like they used to as one single show. That's the way this works right now. So we're going to do a Jimcast, this monologue. We're going to do it every Monday through Thursday, whether we have a guest or not, which we did not do in the past. Except for next Thursday, we're taking the whole Thursday off. Medical stuff. Sorry about that. Won't bore you. We don't know who our guest is going to be next Tuesday, but I'm sure we'll have one. We're doing a TikTok tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern, TikTok live show. I was going to do it earlier. I talked about last night on TikTok about the fact I thought maybe we do it actually before we ran the real show on YouTube instead of after. But something's come up, and now I got to believe it or not, I might be stuck in the rush hour traffic. I got to be honest. That's the reason I can't do it at 8 p.m. And you're saying, well, that's kind of late for rush hour, but it's 7 p.m. here in Minneapolis, and I don't want to risk it. So we're going live on TikTok tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern. We were planning originally to run the full show on TikTok as a live on tape broadcast there, and I don't know if we're going to do that anymore. I'm having such a good time, and we're getting such a good reaction to the live shows we've done this week on TikTok that I think I'm just going to permanently do that. It'll be either an after show or a pre-show, and then if people want to watch, they can go to YouTube and Rumble and watch the show. That's the way I'm kind of thinking about this. My other thing too is that people on TikTok if you're live, they're used to interacting with the host, and if we run the show live on tape, there's no interaction. I'm afraid that might just kind of kill any interest. So that's what they're doing. That's what we got going on there. And then finally, I want to mention the fact we have our 24/7 linear channel running on YouTube. You can 24 hours a day, you can sit there and just tune in and watch. It's like live TV. We have 22 interviews queued up there, and we're going to add another 20, 25 more. and they run in a loop, and none of them repeat until they all go through. So, I mean, yeah, right now you can sit there and you can watch for a good 20 hours and you won't see it. And if you do that, something's wrong with you. I wouldn't do it. And I like watching myself. Well, actually, I don't. I don't really care, but I wouldn't do it. But at any rate, so what do we got today for Thursday, June 4th? This is you have to know about this because the mainstream media is not going to report on this. It appears in the Los Angeles mayoral election. It appears they're cheating the votes. That's what it appears. David Strom wrote about this in Hot Air. One of my my best friend, buddy, journalist, and also one of my favorite news outlet. But they are, of course, in California, it takes them weeks to wrap up elections. And they say it's because they want to preserve the integrity of the election. That's complete, utter bullshit. Every single country on the planet does it within hours. It takes them weeks. But as the mail in ballots are coming in, wouldn't you know it? So the last dump they had was about 30,000 ballots. Not a single one of them went for Spencer Pratt. Not one, zero. And I'm not talking about about zero. No, actually zero. They all went to 30,000 votes, and none of them went to Spencer Pratt. I don't need to point this out to you. That's statistically impossible. It is. And even a few days ago, Gavin Newsom, Greasy Gavin, he actually addressed the fact that they had a plan in place in case it looked like a Democrat was going to lose. And apparently this is the plan. They're cheating the votes. I mean, I can't, this is so disgusting. It's mind boggling. I mean, I've told you about this in the past everyone said, well, no, there was no cheating in the 2024 election, or no, the 2020 election. No, there couldn't have been. Well, hold it. Here's the deal. I don't have proof, but I have evidence, and the evidence is crowd sizes. I've talked about this many times before, but I need to talk about it again because this is really important. During the 2020 campaign for president, except for one exception, 5 days before the election in Pennsylvania, Joe Biden never drew more than 200 people to any campaign event. Not one. Well, like I said, there was one exception. That was the entire 6 months. And actually, it was less than 100 people, but there were so few people at these campaign events that the press couldn't tell who the difference between the people actually showing up and the other press corps. It was that bad. It was nobody showed up to see this guy. Meanwhile, Trump was drawing an average of 20,000 people at every campaign event, and this goes on. There was during Biden's inauguration, at his inauguration day, 2 weeks ahead of time. This was reported in the New York Times. Matter of fact, all these figures are public. I didn't pull them out of my butt. I actually kept track of this as the editor of Kong News. 2 weeks before Biden's inauguration, the New York Times reported that the inauguration committee had only gotten 1,600 requests for tickets. Now, you have to understand that for both Obama and Trump, more than 100,000 people showed up, had tickets for the inauguration. You needed a ticket to get onto the mall to actually see the inauguration. You need a ticket. They're free, but you need one. And you could get up to 4 tickets per invitation. So that means that at the maximum, there was about 7,000 people who had requested to come see Joe Biden's inauguration. And 7,000 versus over 100,000 for both his predecessors. In October 2021, Biden appeared in Lancaster, Louisiana, and literally nobody showed up. Nobody. Zero. This went on and on. All those supposed, quote unquote, intimate campaign events they had during the 2024 cycle before Biden dropped out, they were intimate because they couldn't get anybody to come to them. Nobody wanted to go out to see this guy. And the thing is, and my friends were telling me, I mentioned this, of course, I mentioned it on the podcast too, about the fact that, well, you don't understand, Jim. People weren't voting for Trump. They weren't voting for Biden. They were voting against Trump. But everybody, like 100%. And this is the thing that happened yesterday in Los Angeles. 30,000 votes come in, and on a single one for Pratt. That's impossible. That's statistically impossible. They're cheating. That's all there's to it. And now even the prediction markets have now figured this in. Now Spencer Pratt is, even for the runoff election, has dropped down to single digits because everybody knows they're cheating. It appears he's not going to be in. That's the way it looks right now. So, and I don't know, maybe they'll reverse course because it's obvious, but I don't think they care at this point. I don't think they care that it's obvious. They know nobody can do anything. I mean, I think the federal government should sue them if this happens. I mean, I think especially as a civil suit, a preponderance of evidence. You don't need any actual smoking gun proof, and there probably wouldn't be any, and that's what they're counting on. They're cheating because they know nobody can really trace it. Nobody can, you know. So yeah, they're getting away with it. And everyone's assumed, there's been this assumption by many people. The last survey I saw said that still to this day, a majority of Americans think that the Democrats cheated the 2020 presidential election. And okay, so you may feel that way, but the thing is, this is getting really blatant. And yeah, there's nothing anybody can. I mean, I would like to see even like a California voter file a suit. I mean, it's just like, I don't know. It's terrible. It's terrible. Meanwhile, speaking of terrible, Jill Biden's on her book tour, and she's completely like blowing up everything that's coming in her way. There, oh my, and I forgot to. Oh God, I didn't mention. I didn't. Hold on. I didn't get this guy's name, and I should, because it's important. Andrew Bates, who was one of their the deputy director of their campaign in 2024. Excuse me. He made a post on X about the fact that why is Joe Biden going out now with the midterms coming up and dragging all this stuff out with their book about how nobody believes this woman anymore. No one, even her own party, and even Bates. People said, you have to understand, Andrew Bates was like the most loyal employee anybody could ever have. He went out of his way. Basically, he kind of destroyed his personal reputation just saying Biden was sharp as a tack. That whole thing. So the book comes, and he says, "Why now? Why do you have to do this? That this is the worst possible time to do this." And she basically said, "Why don't you call me and tell me to my face?" That's actually a paraphrase or a quote. She said, "Just bring it." She doesn't care. It's like, and so this was Ed Morrissey writing on Hot Air, and he said, "Excuse me." At this point, no one likes these people, and these people being the Bidens, and basically she's revealing what they've always been all about. It's always been about them, whether it is about them or not, and that's the problem. A lot of times it isn't about them, but then they'll make it about them anyway. This terrible stuff. God, I've been trying to keep these to under 25 minutes, so I knew that was going to burn up a lot of time. So I need to mention this too, because this is kind of my business. Scott Pelley, maybe you heard this, the reporter for 60 Minutes. He got fired from 60 Minutes a couple days ago because he was very contentious during a staff meeting. He basically thinks the new people running the show don't know what they're doing, and that's fine. That's within his right. But he was rude, and also the thing that hasn't come out that he won't talk about, but has apparently been documented, is they invited him numerous times to meet with them, and he refused. So they just assume he was setting the whole thing up now to be a martyr. But the thing about Pelley, that supposedly this guy is a complete, utter, arrogant jackass in person. I don't know him. I don't. I've never met him. Don't have anything to do with him. I'm assuming, because so many people say this, I'm assuming it's more or less true. But here's my real point here. He comes off as an arrogant, pompous jackass on the air, And that I don't understand why anybody stands for. And you may say, "Well, Jim, what's the difference between that?" Here's the difference. There's a lot of people who are very really, really nice people who come off terrible on television and vice versa. And the best example I can think of to kind of prove that is what Jay Leno said years ago about Bill and Hillary Clinton. Now, I have to preface this here. I had a really good friend of mine who passed away who was legitimately good friends with Bill Clinton. I mean, hangout friends. I thought I was going to get to meet the guy at some point. I never did, and my friend passed away. But Jay Leno said this about the Clintons. He said they both come off exactly opposite in private as they do on TV. Bill Clinton comes out very well on television, warm, engaging, but he said in private he's quite aloof. Doesn't talk much. Hillary, Jay says, is the opposite. She comes off terrible on television, and she does absolutely terrible. But he says in private she's a very warm and engaging person, and I'm using that as an example here. I believe that too. I believe Jay Leno's right, and Hillary does come off terrible on television. It's one of the reasons she lost. And that's kind of my point. But then you get guys like Pelly, who's apparently, I'm going by reports. Like I said, I've never met the guy. Apparently, comes off like a jackass on TV because he is a jackass in real life. But I don't understand why he ever got hired. I mean, he looks like your pervy uncle on television. He just comes off as a snobbish, arrogant jackass. And I don't understand why anybody's ever put him on the screen. That's the part I don't get. He's been with CBS News for 37 years. And not to mention the fact he never got it through his head that the reason he did the CBS Evening News, he anchored it for about 5 years, and the reason he got fired is because the ratings were so bad. Nobody wants to watch this guy, and I don't understand for the life of me how he's ever survived. So, he can go on and on about how it's unfair and how he's brilliant and all that sort of shit. And maybe he is a brilliant writer. I don't really know. But as a television performer, he's incompetent. It just, I don't understand how. And the thing is, it's performing. It's a performing job. I mean, yeah. Contrast that with Carson, who came off fantastic on television. Johnny Carson, who also apparently was fairly cold and aloof in real life, supposedly. Dick Cavett described Johnny Carson as the single most socially uncomfortable man he ever met. So, but yeah, it's performing on TV or in front of a camera is kind of an art, or at least it's a craft, and Pelly can't do it. So I don't understand why he even lasted this long, and I had to bring that up. I just had to. And finally, I got to talk about this, and this goes on forever here. Uh, uh, a bunch of CEOs are suddenly warning that the U.S. economy might crater in the third quarter. And this might be tied to the fact that I was talking about this yesterday about the fact that the petroleum reserves all worldwide are going to be tapped out completely in the next couple of weeks because of the Iranian war. And so, the Biden administration, they used ours to prop up or bring down the price of gas, and they never filled them up. So our federal reserves are almost empty. But then you got private reserves from the companies like Exxon. Exxon has said theirs are almost done too. And the CEO of Exxon said that once this happens, once these are gone, the price of gas is going to go through the roof. And that's probably going to happen in the next 2 to 4 weeks. That's what it looks like. He also said, and this is the important part, he said even if the Iran war ended tomorrow, it would take another 4 months to get back to normal, which basically means at this point, I've been predicting up to now that the Republicans would actually survive the midterms, both the House and the Senate. Now I don't think so. I don't know if the gas prices are through the roof in November. I think they will at least lose the House, maybe not the Senate. I don't see them surviving. I don't. But that said, for that reason, a lot of these CEOs are now saying that they expect the third quarter, they expect basically the economy to crash, even though the stock market is doing stellar. Matter of fact, it's almost weird how good the stock market's doing. It is. And meanwhile, with this, both Anthropic and OpenAI, the two major AI companies in America, are both planning on going public. And maybe I don't have to tell you this. SpaceX is going to go public next week, if I'm right. I think they're They're for sale, and they value that um, company at $1.75 trillion, and them going public will make Elon Musk the first trillionaire on Earth. But some people are saying that the AI stuff is actually too much of a good thing. That maybe the stock that's why the stock market is just roaring ahead. It says you have to I mean, this has happened before. You had a complete disconnect between the stock market and the regular economy, the Main Street economy. And of course, needless to say, Bernie Sanders needs to get, all that money flowing around. The Democrats need to get on there and get some. Bernie Sanders has proposed that um, that the AI companies be forced to give the federal government 50% of their stock so that they can make money off of it. Of course, you want to do that, right? Yeah, what are you gonna do? You're gonna waste it. That's what you're doing. It wouldn't bother me so much if this money was actually put to good use. It never is. Never. I mean, this is the reason Spencer Pratt is running for the mayor of Los Angeles. It's not just that his house burned down, it's that there's homelessness everywhere, everywhere, and drug use. And that doesn't have to happen. It's only happened in the last like 10 years or so. There's no reason that has to happen. And he's absolutely right. There isn't. There's no reason. It's incompetence. It's total incompetence. All right. I'm going to end with this tonight because this is something that actually I don't understand this. I'm a straight man. I I've spent most of my life loving women. Bret Michaels, the guy who's the lead singer of Poison from the band from the 1990s, um, he's supporting his daughter's brilliant decision to follow her dreams and sell pictures of her feet online. There's a huge market for this, and I don't get it. I do not understand what men find so erotic about feet. I don't, and I don't know if this is a majority of men, but the men who are into this are really into this, and they'll pay big money. And like supposedly, I can't remember the name of the website. There's a website that specializes in this, and she's not going to make a lot of money. I guess maybe like 1 or 2 grand a month, supposedly selling feet pics. But just the fact there's a market for it at all, I just don't understand. I really don't understand it. But now I get because I like and get the sex thing. I need to bring this up too. Victoria's Secret changed their ticker symbol on Nasdaq to VSXY. That would be very sexy because they have dumped the whole woke thing and gone back to pretty models and lingerie, and their stock has gone through the roof, and their sales too. Apparently, people they're buying the bras left and right. I mean, women. I don't know, are guys buying it for women or whatever. Lingerie is a big deal. Because women look good in lingerie, and men buy lingerie for women and for themselves. Not to wear. Well, most of us anyway. I, I'm not into that, but whatever. I guess if that turns your boat. I want to thank you folks for watching. We got okay. So we have a interview with Jonathan Lockwood coming up here. If you're on Rumble, it's going to be on this stream. If you're on YouTube, it's going to be on a separate stream, and it'll be archived separately. Got that? Okay. So, and of course, we don't do Fridays here. So this is it for the rest of the week. I will see you guys on Monday, and please have a nice weekend, and take care. Okay. Jesus, do I run this or not? I don't know.